Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good morning. This is Sri Primo here with a quick update on the amazing semifinals I got to witness with Dr. Dan and Alan and Eric yesterday at the U.S. Open. The tradition that we always do, we go to the U.S. Open semifinal, and we had two amazing matches on display. One was Sinner and Draper, and the other one was the All-American semifinal between Francis Tiafoe and Taylor Fritz. Dan and I did a podcast a couple of days ago where we each predicted Sinner to move on. I predicted Fritz to move on to the final, while Dan predicted Tiafoe. We'll get to that match in a bit, but the first matchup between Jack Draper and Sinner was a battle. And it was a battle of wills. It's a battle of strength. It's a battle of, I would call it, pushing the limits when it comes to even the body. And I think you saw Draper in the second set literally throwing up. And then you had Sinner with the wrist injury. So we'll get to that final preview in a bit. But going back to the first match between Sinner and Draper, Draper was coming into this match throughout the tournament. He didn't lose a single set. He was probably broken only 3 times. And the match definitely lived up to its billing with in the opening game, the way Draper started, I thought this match would be over pretty quickly. He was pretty nervous. It definitely seemed so. He was nervous, and but the other thing was that Sinner was also off. There's so many unforced errors he had early in that match as well. So it was a battle of just who's going to blink. And in the first set, it was so close with each player trading back and forth service games, and it just took one game. It was I would call it the game of inches, the game of sometimes it's a very cruel sport where Draper had his serve going earlier. He definitely a couple of things I did see watching it live on Sinner's second serve. There was a couple of times that he stepped to the baseline, and each time he got a winner. But throughout the rest of the first set, and I would say even rest of the match, he was standing way behind. I can see when a player stands way behind on the first serve, but in the second serve, you have to come in and kind of put the pressure on. And the match also was very interesting in the sense that you hardly saw both the players come to the net that much. I was when I looked at even the first serve percentage started to dip even for both the players. And let's go back to the first set again. I think it was just a matter of one break point. Draper did have a break point sometime in the match, but he only had converted, he had 4 break point opportunities in the match, and he only converted 1. And Sinner had 4. I think actually had 11, but he converted 4. So those were all the critical ones. In the first set, it just came down to one break of serve at 5-all, and then Sinner could not hold on at 4-all. I think he could not finish the set. He got broken, and then Draper got broken at 7-5. The first set itself took a while before it ended, and the match definitely was a baseline battle. But you like I said, you didn't really see. I would call it wow kind of shots throughout this match. It was almost like who was going to blink. Second set, very similar. You had both Draper. Draper's serve was actually much better on point, but Sinner started to mix up some of the things. He started hitting the ball deeper, and then was able to finish off some of the winners, and then started to get some winners. Even he still had his share of unforced errors, but then once he started to kind of jump on Draper's second serve, um, it looked like Draper had to find something else out of his playbook to um, get back at center. But then in the tiebreaker in the second set, uh, Sinner was just incredible. I mean, every unforced error he had made prior to that, and we were actually talking about that, everything disappeared with every shot. He played almost like, it's almost like a Djokovic kind of a tiebreaker where he just takes every point. It's a new game. He takes it seriously. He ran to a 4-0 lead, uh, 5-1 lead, and then came back at 6-3, and then eventually wrapped at 7-3. Uh, I think that was pretty much it. Once those two sets were done, I mean, it took a long time, 2.5 hours to even get to that second set. It was the third set was just a Sinner just staking his claim as one of the best. I mean, he's the number one seed in the world, and Draper didn't have much left in him, not much left in the tank, and it was Sinner on to his second Grand Slam final this season. The first one obviously won the Australian Open, and this one he gets to the final, which means that we've seen both Alcaraz and Sinner. Alcaraz won two, obviously. Both the young generation players have both advanced to the all four Grand Slam two apiece. So let's come down to the other matchup between uh, Tiafoe and Fritz. Dr. Dan and I talked about this. It was a 6-1 advantage for Fritz, but Tiafoe has been playing well. He recently lost to Sinner in the Cincinnati Open. He's had a very good run. Fritz had been a little up and down throughout the season, but he has been playing well of late. And he had two huge wins uh, this season, or this US Open itself. I mean, he was able to beat Zverev, who was world number four, someone who had gone to the final in the French Open, muscled that one out. He had to win two tiebreakers in that match, and Fritz was definitely, I would call it, he was much more. I mean, of course, we did talk about the fact that Tiafoe did have a good. I mean, he did play Shelton, um, but Fritz definitely had, and he also had to play Rude. And that was an amazing match in itself, where Rude was playing lights out in the first set. Fritz had no answers, but Fritz came back and won rather easily in the match, the last three sets for against Rude. So, but again, this match, the crowd was definitely pro Tiafoe. We were in the stadium, and it definitely looked pro Tiafoe. And it seemed like Fritz was going to run away with this match when he started off with the 3-0 lead in the first set. But then Tiafoe just came back, grinded it out, and some of the shots that Tiafoe hit were just incredible with the backhand. I think that's probably one of the best backhand we've ever seen hitting down the line with this latest crop of players. And he was just so patient with Fritz. I mean, just kept moving him around, and then he whips it one right past the backhand down the line on Taylor's forehand, and Taylor had no answers to that when Tiafoe was making the comeback. Once Tiafoe came back, he won 5 straight games. Taylor kind of stopped the bleeding by winning his service game, but then Tiafoe served it out and then went on to win it. The second set was kind of very interesting in the sense that both the players played at a very high quality. That set was, I would call it, that was probably the best set I've seen both of them play. They were not playing like a ranked number 17 and 20. They were actually playing like this. They were two top five players in the world. And I'm sure that with um, this performance so far, they both will have their ranks up. I think Taylor should definitely crack the top 10, and Tiafoe should climb the top 15. But then it was a very close game with Tiafoe's serve just untouchable. Some of these serves were about 125 to 130, and Taylor was serving well too, but excellent rallies. I really thought this game was much more physical than the first game. But and also both the players, I would say Taylor more so, came to the net a lot more. It looked a little more variety in the game rather than two players just playing off the baseline. It's going to be very interesting to see the Fritz and Sinner matchup tomorrow. But in the second set, on a very crucial, it was a 5-6 um, down. Tiafoe was serving, and just about that time, his serve just gave way, and he got into trouble with an early love 30. And then, just when you thought about it, he made two pretty bad decisions in terms of a drop shot, and then that pretty much sealed that set for Tiafoe. And Tiafoe must be wondering, I mean, post game, what he could have done better. He could have definitely taken that to his tiebreaker. In the third set, it was not an impressive performance by Tiafoe from a serving standpoint. Actually, Taylor Fritz actually had a better serving percentage, at least to 13 to 14% serving percentage. But the key there was Fritz hardly had a chance for a break point, and Tiafoe was able to convert those break points rather easily. And once Tiafoe was able to establish, despite his serving woes, he was able to somehow, with his excellent backhand and forehand, moving Taylor all around. It seemed like Taylor definitely seemed to be out of gas in that particular set, and the crowd definitely had Taylor's or Francis's back. So it seemed like he ran through that pretty much, and then he won that third set at 6-4. The fourth set, again, this was another very interesting set. Um, I thought Tiafoe's serving would come back, but it kind of continued in that fourth set as well. His serving percentage was really down to I think low 40s on the first serve, both the third and fourth set. His serving percentage was lower, but Taylor did capitalize on that. And even during the commentary that we were listening to, um, John McEnroe did say that in the fourth set, Taylor's energy was a little high. It seems like he had a little more step in him than Francis. I thought Francis would come very sharp and try to close it, but that was, again, a very crazy set in the sense that it was 4-all, and Taylor held on at 5-4, and Francis, for some reason, he was up 40 to 15 and had two double faults, and then hit a shank of a forehand and a drop shot, which was an unnecessary drop shot to end the set and even the match at two apiece. The crowd definitely got its way. The entire crowd now wanted five sets. Obviously, they were already entertained to most people who stayed for both the sessions were entertained to the Sinner Draper um, battle on the baseline, but the crowd definitely got into it. Not a empty seat was in the Arthur Ashe Stadium, and Taylor Fritz seemed to have completely was rejuvenated after the fourth set win with a mistake from Tiafoe, or I would say almost like a lapse in concentration. That's what I would call it. And once he got that, Taylor was not looking back. He had the same look like he had in the first set. He had his energy. The crowd was definitely, well, they were rooting for Francis and both of them. But I think Taylor put on an excellent display of not only his serving, but just all around the strokes. He was able to shorten the points. A lot of the rallies were from 18 to 20 to 8. There was actually a 31-point rally in the fourth set. But in the fifth set, Taylor was able to shorten the points, get the winners much quicker, had a lot less unforced errors, more winners, and Tiafoe didn't have many answers. There was a point Tiafoe was able to break at 4-1, and it seemed the crowd was back in. A lot of people had left the stadium, but the crowd was back in cheering, egging on Tiafoe. if he can get to 4-2 and hopefully try to see if he can break Taylor again. But that was the only point in which I thought Taylor let his guard down and Francis was able to get the break point. But he could not capitalize. Taylor was able to quickly jump on it, get down to breaking Tiafoe at 5-1, and very impressively serves it out, hits his ace, and finishes off Tiafoe to take the record to 7-1. And then not only that, he is the first time an American gets back into the U.S. Open final since Andy Roddick made it in 2006. And the last time the American one was Andy Roddick in 2003. So can Taylor actually make some noise and win the U.S. Open tomorrow? Remains to be seen. Not sure what happened to Sinner's wrist. He seemed to have iced it in the post game, but all indications seem like he's ready to go. And it's going to be such a battle. Taylor definitely cannot have any kind of lapse in concentration like he had against Tiafoe. But we'll get to the preview a little later with Dr. Dan, hopefully. But that's my recap of the men's semifinal. And while I'm at it, I did want to quickly touch upon the women's final preview. Another American, Pegula, is in the final against Sabalenka. Again, this is something very similar. Sabalenka won the Australian Open. She made the final there, and she's making the final again at the U.S. Open, just like Sinner did. So let's see if both of them can do the double win at Australian and U.S. Open. But give credit to Jessica Pegula. The other day, Sabalenka played an unbelievable match against Emma Navarro. It was a great match, and I really enjoyed that match. And she gave everything that Sabalenka could handle. The first set was easy one for Sabalenka, but the second set went to a tiebreaker, and give Sabalenka credit for hanging in there and wrapping up the tiebreaker. And then Pegula, she was down. She lost the first set 6-1, but she came back strong and won at 6-4 and 6-2 to set up this amazing final. It's a 2 versus 6. Pegula is someone that we've been talking about for a while, and whether she could get to that next level. But I would think that all indications right now, while I do think that um, uh, Pegula will have the crowd total, it'll be a partisan crowd, just like it was for Sabalenka a couple of days ago. I definitely think that she is ready for this. And even she did say that if you had told her, like someone had told her at the beginning of the year that she would be in the finals of the US Open, she was not where her head was, and she was rightfully there. I mean, she's 30 years old. She's getting her first shot at a Grand Slam trophy, but she's playing a player, uh, Sabalenka, who is actually playing as good as anyone can. Um, Sabalenka has had an amazing record. I did talk about it. She was like 16-1 this Grand Slam. But let's see if she can continue to establish herself in the top. I mean, she's already world number 2, and Swiatek is world number 1. But um, Sabalenka is. I feel she's playing the sport at such a high level. I think, like I said, we did talk about in the podcast where her forehand was faster than even Alcaraz and a lot of the men there. So I'm really looking forward to where Sabalenka, her serve has definitely turned around. And I know a few years back where she had the serving yips, but now her serve is probably one of her biggest strengths. The way I see this going today, I definitely see Pegula giving her best, but I don't think this could be her maiden U.S. Open title. I think Sabalenka is going to win this thing. I probably think 2 sets. Maybe if the crowd's there, she'll get to a third set. But I think it's going to be a 6-4, 7-5 victory for Sabalenka. So looking forward to that match later today at 4 p.m. But all in all, it was a wonderful U.S. Open, and the tradition, like we always done every year, going to the U.S. Open semifinal. We got to saw some other matches, some junior matches as well. Very exciting to see it. The crowd was just incredible. The weather was phenomenal, and the play was just simply superb. And again, coming back home late at like a 2:30 a.m. Was well worth it. So it was a great ride, U.S. Open, and thanks Eric again for driving, Dan and Alan for keeping company. Uh, it was an amazing success. With that, I wrap up the U.S. Open men's semifinal and a women's final preview. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening. Primo will be back soon.